Ciao! Welcome to my video. This is a recap of my recent oil change on my 2021 Suzuki V-strom 1050 motorcycle. A simple and straightforward operation that anyone can perform. I am not a professional mechanic, but I will show you what I have done. Reminding you that this video is not intended as a guide, but only as entertainment. For mechanical operations, please always refer to a qualified mechanic or proceed yourself at your own risk. For my convenience, I used a lift, but the center stand will do as well. I needed a clean container that is large and sturdy enough, an M17 socket wrench for the drain plug, and a tool of some kind to remove the oil filter. And of course, also rags and cleaning products, and an empty container to put the used oil to be appropriately disposed of. I will remove the oil plug at the bottom of the engine and let the oil drain for the time necessary to completely empty its content. In this case, the oil is very hot. I will try not to burn myself, avoiding to touch the engine or the oil. The oil you see coming out has only done 6,000 or 7,000 kilometers and was changed at the previous service by the dealer. It was a model 7100, grade 10 W40. As you can see, being very hot, it comes out almost watery. For my country, Suzuki requires the oil filter to be replaced every 2 oil changes, which are scheduled every year or every 12,000 kilometers. But in this case, I will replace the filter anyway. I will do the same for the air filter. After about 20 minutes, the oil has almost completely drained out, and I can proceed to fit the new filter and plug, on which I will replace the metal gasket. Engine oil lubricates the engine, cools down the mechanical parts, and acts as a cleaning agent. During the operation of the engine, and especially when new, some wearing of its internal components is always present, and, as you can see, in the plug there's a magnet to retain any small metal particles that might accumulate in the oil. Always check your oil plug and the spent oil for the presence of metal particles. The plug's metal gasket is not symmetrical. The smooth side goes towards the bolt flange. Once tightened, it will get squashed and make the seal. For this reason, in theory, it should be replaced every time the oil plug is unscrewed. The rubber gasket of the new oil filter should be oiled with engine oil before being tightened. A little oil will do. Just make sure it is not completely dry. Also, I will not over-tighten it. Otherwise, at the next change, it will be very difficult to remove. I tightened the filter as much as possible by hand, and then using the tool I made it go another quarter turn. It will be checked again later for leaks. For new oil, I will use an oil with API SN and JSO MA2 specifications. An excellent oil, considering that for my Suzuki, an oil with API specifications starting from SG is also fine. Higher than SN quality oils are okay, but not mandatory. Especially if, like me, you change the oil well before the required interval. Always check your owner's manual to know what oil is recommended in your area. It is also important to make sure that the oil plug is inserted correctly and not out of alignment before tightening it with the wrench, to avoid ruining the threads and then having to undergo expensive repairs. To be safe, before using a wrench, I will screw the plug in by hand, making sure that it rotates all the way in without excessive resistance.
A few moments later.
Fresh oil is now in the engine. I couldn't film this part because I needed both hands to hold the can and the funnel, but I'm sure you can imagine the missing bit. As for the amount of oil to put in the engine, I will put here the references given by Suzuki for this specific model. I prefer to initially put a little less than the recommended amount and then proceed to adjust the level after having turned the engine on for a bit, giving the oil filter time to fill up and to the level to settle. This way, I don't risk finding myself having to remove excess oil from the engine. I will start the bike keeping it at idle for a few minutes, and then, after letting it rest for another 3 minutes, with a bike kept vertical and on a flat ground, I will check the level through the inspection window. It must be contained dead between the F and L lines. If necessary, I will proceed to add or remove oil. Please leave a like if you found this video interesting or useful. Ciao!